Hi everybody. Okay, so I'm back out in the middle of nowhere. My friend Overland Joe here helped me get out here, so you know, we drove out into the desert so I can walk around. And I was inspired, you might have noticed from the last video I made, that I was thinking that there just doesn't seem to be enough on YouTube or just anywhere really on wilderness first aid, so I decided to get the help of a friend who is quite a bit more qualified to talk about it than me. So this is Overland Joe, and hello, say hi to everybody.
Howdy.
All right. So what is your training to start out with?
Well, I did 8 years in the Navy as a corpsman stationed with the Marines. I've been in many different aspects of the world and the country.
So you were trained as basically a field medic then?
Yes.
For the Marines, yeah, in the Navy. So that's pretty cool. And you mentioned also you've done some wilderness survival training too, right?
I've done wilderness survival training on my own, through the military, also through other little courses I take, and I've actually done some classes where I teach people wilderness first aid, survival, and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very basic, as Dan here says, is sasquatch style, where you have whatever you have on you and that's it.
Right. So what did you were certified in Maine for?
Being a master Maine guide in the state of Maine. I was bored and took a class.
All right, sounds good. So so with all that training and all that experience, I decided we should maybe do some videos on wilderness first aid and focus on kind of Sasquatch style. If you don't have a whole bunch of medical equipment with you, what would you do? So today we're going to talk about...
we'll just do a basics on why it's important to have those skills.
There you go.
I mean, a lot of people, when they go hiking out into the desert, the woods, the mountains, wherever you live, you might bring a first aid kit with you. What happens if you set your backpack down on, let's say, this rock, and you walk over there and fall down off a cliff? Guess what? Your first aid kit is nowhere near you. What are you going to use?
Yeah.
Or you're driving down some lonely back road and you get in a car accident, or the car breaks down and you have to hike back. Do you have your bug out bag or something like that with you? You might not necessarily have that.
Probably not. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if most survival situations happen when people aren't expecting it, and that's why it's a survival. You know, that's why it's a survival situation. So
even if you come prepared, I mean, let's say you're out in the middle of the desert, you have all your gear with you, you're camping out that night, and all of a sudden some guy sneaking across the border come across your campsite and you have to get out of there quick. You don't have time to pack up all your gear and leave. You're just going to leave a bunch of your stuff behind just so you can preserve your own life.
By the way, this is Cowgirl here. She's helping with the video too. Okay, so a couple days ago, we were talking about doing a video on snake bites because that's pretty common out here,
especially right? In Arizona, yeah.
Yeah. We got diamondback rattlers that are some of the more poisonous snakes in the world.
The Mojaves.
Yeah. We have...
There are some red Mojaves in this area, too.
I'm sure I've seen one coral snake too. I don't know how it got here, but apparently every now and then they get this far north. But I would expect to find them more down in Mexico, you know, and farther south than Arizona. But every now and then they seem to make it up this far. When I was a kid, I was in the city. You know how they used to have in Phoenix all these open fields everywhere all through the city. Most of those are built up now. But I was just running across one of these fields and I jump over a ditch onto the road and I looked down and I jumped over a coral snake, you know, in the city. So that's
could have
pretty
been somebody's pet.
It's possible. I was wondering, you know, it's like, did this get... So I go back to look, you know, and of course I'm paranoid, but I couldn't find it. You know, it slithered into a hole somewhere or whatever. But yeah, maybe somebody's pet coral snake got away. But diamondback rattlers are pretty common here. You see them all the time. I've shown one or two in my videos. So maybe we could start out by talking about diamondback rattlers and exactly, or anything. You know, if you get bit by a snake, first of all, like I'm climbing up a I'm climbing up some rocks and I put my hand up on a ledge and something zaps me, you know, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and I have no cell phone signal. I can't really call for a helicopter. So
Tourniquet.
Yeah.
Tourniquet's your first option.
So, well,
the most popular misconception is, oh, I take out my pocket knife, cut it open, and suck the venom out. No, you don't want to do that. One of the most absorbent parts of your body that absorbs anything is your tongue and your mouth. So you sucking the venom into your mouth is actually going to hurt you faster than just leaving it in your hand. I mean, if you want to try squeezing out, it's probably not going to work, but tourniquet. Get the tourniquet as close to the bite where, you know, if you feel your pulse, you don't feel a pulse anymore. And it's okay to leave that on there for 2, 3, 4 hours. You're not going to lose your hand or leg because of it.
Should you, when you buy a snake bite
kit.
Yeah, thank you. When you buy a snake bite kit, they always include that little razor knife, you know, and all that stuff. Should you follow the directions kind of like they show it and cut open a slit to let out, I guess, the poison blood? Or
depends on how far away from civilization you are. You could say, if it's a 3-hour hike to get back to a roadway, then I wouldn't do that. Okay. If you're like 4 days away from civilization, well, anything's better than nothing.
Right.
Even if you do it wrong, anything is better than nothing, because there's no way you're going to make it back in time. And not all snake bites are going to kill you either. A lot of snakes don't want to bite you. That's why rattlesnakes rattle, is they don't want to bite you. They're saying, hey, dude, I'm here, leave me alone.
So unless it's a baby rattlesnake that has no self-control, it's not going to release all its venom.
No.
So you're more likely to be in a lot of severe pain, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, the bite is very painful. Is there venom in there? Not necessarily. Most adult rattlesnakes dry bite because they have to replenish that venom. And, I mean, if it's biting you or eating the rabbit tomorrow, I think it's going to go with eating the rabbit tomorrow.
Is there are there easy ways to know? Let's say I had my hand on a ledge and something bit me, but I don't know if it's a poisonous snake or not.
Well, if it bites you and it's got 2 puncture holes, more than likely it's probably a poisonous snake.
Because those are fangs for injecting venom.
And that's why I say go with a tourniquet, because even if the venom is still stuck in your hand's going to start changing colors most of the time. And if it 3 hours from now it doesn't, well, to release the tourniquet, it was a dry bite.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
You should start seeing effects from either the neurotoxin or whatever toxin is in that particular snake. Your body will react to it. And if you see no reaction, more than likely it was a dry bite or such a minimal amount of venom that it's not really going to affect you.
Okay. Now, so I get bit on my hand or my foot or whatever. Do I want to keep that below my heart or above my heart?
Trying to get out of the situation. If it's on your leg, it's a little hard to walk on your hands.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Especially through the desert.
Yeah. So now what I've read is that you know, they're like, oh, don't move any more than you have to, because the more movement you do, then
it's going to make
venom
your blood
that's in your blood is going to...
But if you apply a tourniquet right away,
then it's not going to move up into your heart. So
after World War I, World War II, the medical community kind of went away from tourniquets because of one famous military general said that they were horrible, evil, nasty things. Well, the military and most organizations now are going back to tourniquets. The military is full-on tourniquets. You see most of our soldiers nowadays carrying 2 to 3 to 4 tourniquets on them at all times. Tourniquets are a very good thing to use. Obviously, when you put a tourniquet on, try writing on the tourniquet with something, what time and the date that it was put on. That way, if medical personnel come up to you, they'll know. And keeping stuff with you that you don't know how to use is also a good thing. If you don't know how to use it, like IVs and stuff, I've seen people carry those in their cars. I'm like, do you know how to use it? They don't say no. Having that stuff with you is good, but if you don't know how to use it, don't use it. It's there so somebody else can help you with it. Because an off-duty EMT might be hiking through the woods and you don't know how to use it, but he does.
So a tourniquet now, you could use a lot of different things for a tourniquet, right? Like you could use a handkerchief, you could use a string.
Yeah, you could pretty much use your shoelace, I mean, your belt.
Okay.
As I said, just make sure it's above the wound and, you know, below or above a joint, depends on, you know, where the injury is, and check the pulse below the tourniquet. If you can still feel even a slight pulse, tighten it up a little bit more. Okay. And the wider the tourniquet, the better. That way it's not going to cause tissue damage and muscle damage where the tourniquet is.
Okay.
Military surplus is a great place to get a lot of cheap, good gear. And you can find military-style tourniquets, which are really small. You can throw them in your back pocket. If you carry your first aid kit with you while you're hiking, horseback riding, ATVing, or anything that you want to do out in the desert, forests, mountains, wherever you explore nature.
So, and of course, if you're into following our Sasquatch survival videos, you might have made yourself some twine out of bear grass or something, and that might be on you.
Or fibers out of a Palo Verde tree. Or the Native Americans didn't use, you know, they used plants to make rope. I mean, one of the strongest ropes you can get is hemp. And hemp's a plant.
Yes, yeah. So, but preferably you would have, if you're making your own twine because you were doing some naked survival, preferably you would have hopefully made some of that before your injury, so you already have this on you. Otherwise, it could
full-on Sasquatch.
Yeah, exactly.
Trim your hair.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you could use your hair for a tourniquet, maybe. So, maybe we should show people an actual tourniquet so they can see how to make one, and if they're not really sure, let's put a tourniquet on me. All right. So we're gonna make a tourniquet. I got bit somewhere on my hand, I guess. Is that the most common place?
Well, the most common place is, you know, below the knee and below the elbow. Okay. For snake bites, at least.
Yeah. Okay. So I got bit somewhere in the hand. So let's. You
want to put it about right there.
Okay.
Because you got to make your artery come in through that part of your arm.
And I got to cut that off before that poisoned blood starts getting to my heart, right?
Well, you don't want a lot of it. I mean, a little bit is one thing, but you want to try to minimize how much you actually get into your system. I mean, you're going to get some flow, but, you know, 3 ounces getting to your heart's a lot better than, you know, 12 ounces getting to your heart. Something as simple as putting a tourniquet in this area here. You also want to check the pulse in your arm to make sure that the tourniquet is actually working. Tightening it up. Belts work. You know, you can cut up part of your t-shirt to make a tourniquet. But the best thing is, the key thing is to get something nice and wide that can put the pressure on so you don't get a lot of tissue damage or muscle damage. Okay. Also, if you don't have that, I mean, rip up part of your t-shirt, you got a bandana around your waist, grab that for real quick.
Okay. So, yeah, which with the sash, I don't have to rip up my t-shirt, which
exactly.
is good.
The cool thing about the sash is you can wrap it around and then take a stick that you find laying on the ground or something and actually tie it in there. So that way you can actually make it tighter.
Go ahead and do it, because it looks like, you know, the belt might be harder to use if you really want to tighten it down.
The good thing with how long this sash is when you tighten it, you start spinning it, well, you got these extra trailing ends.
Yeah.
You can actually use these trailing ends to tie off
the stick itself.
To tie off the stick itself. Like that way it immobilizes it.
So,
because you're going to get that pretty tight.
Yeah. Really tight. Yeah,
really tight. And you can use the trailing ends of this sash
to tie this part
tie it
so
off.
It doesn't move.
So it doesn't move.
Otherwise,
that way it holds the tourniquet.
Yeah, the stick starts spinning around and comes loose again. Yeah.
Okay. What are really popular nowadays are the smogs. A lot of people are using those because you can wrap them around your head. Those are also really good for using as a tourniquet if you need to.
Another option I wanted to mention is the Army style, where they've got several bandanas. So, you know, they recommend using the bandanas, of course, for when you're making a splint, and they'll always use several of them. So if you had more than one, and you can tie those around your ankle, your wrist, your neck, whatever, so you could have several on you. And if you made the the tourniquet, you know, one, you know,
You
is
can
the
use
tourniquet,
as a
and
tourniquet,
the other one
to
ties
secure the
yeah,
stick.
to secure it,
or
right,
whatever
so,
else you have laying around. I mean,
exactly.
I've seen guys actually use knives, open up a knife and use that and secure that down, because it's a hard, rigid object that's not going to move. Yeah, it's got a blade. I mean, you can cut, but
Okay, all right.
I mean, use what you have with you, because most of the time when you run into an emergency situation, you have whatever's in your pockets on a daily basis. You're not going to have your full bug out bag, which is really popular now. There's people building bug out bags.
Right.
Yeah, it's great and all, but you might not have that with you. Your, what do they call them, EDC bags? Some people are carrying in their cars. They bring them with them everywhere. You might not have that with you.
It's really common for me, you know, like I'm just taking a road trip and I go, oh, look, there's a cave up on top of that mountain. I'm going to hike up there. And you're not thinking anything's going to happen. You're not taking a big backpack or whatever. You're just getting out of your car and going, and suddenly something happens and you don't have any of that stuff with you. So, yeah.
Most of the time, with the training that you get, or you practice without the gear. The gear is an aid and makes things easier, but you might not always have that with you.
All right. One other thing I was going to say, as I'm thinking about it, you know, we were talking about, you know, the basic survival tools being a folding knife and a lighter, right? You know, and I use the butane lighter with the metal shell. You know, butane can light in the wind and in the rain, and, you know, it's hard to break this one. A lot of people, again, you know, may not have those things with you. And I was thinking it's a really good idea for you to get in the habit of having things like that with you. You don't have to have your lighter and your pocket knife when you go into McDonald's or when you go into the grocery store. But if you start to develop good habits, you know, where you just accidentally always have those things on you, that could be a big help.
Exactly.
In a situation you weren't expecting.
And a lot of wilderness survival things that I've taught people how to do, most of the time, I'll bring them out the day before we're supposed to do our actual wilderness survival test. That way they actually get the full impact of the training, because we go out the day before. The day of it, they're going to bring every little knick-knack. They bring their signal mirrors. They're going to have everything that they're going to have their whole EDC bag with them.
Yeah.
If we just go for a leisurely hike to look at a couple of plants,
Yeah.
they're going to have whatever's in their pocket, which is their pocket knife, their car keys, their cash, maybe their wallet.
And then you spring it on them.
And I spring them. Okay, now this is where it starts. So, okay, you're gonna have to camp here for tonight because you just broke your leg. Remember, you broke your leg.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but nowadays, people smoking is a really big, you know, nobody wants smokers around, but I hate to say it, but most of the time in those situations, the smokers make out the best because they've got their cigarettes and their lighter with them.
So, which is half of what you need in every survival situation. But there are, of course, we always go over Sasquatch options. So in case you don't have those things, but I do want people to start getting in the habit of always accidentally being prepared, because, you know, you're not expecting it, but you're just prepared anyway, because it's a habit to have those things on you.
I mean, you might not smoke, but having a lighter in your pocket, your friend might smoke.
There you go.
They'll like it because you have a lighter with you. Make sure your friends don't steal your lighters, though.
Yeah, well, they'll take it and you'll never see it again. So, all right.
Well, having basic tools like that, I mean, some people carry those magnesium sticks and flint and steel and stuff like that. Are you really going to use those on a day-to-day basis even?
It's a lot easier to have the lighter, which just is a multi, you know, you on a daily basis.
Exactly. You know, and you don't look like one of those survival freaks walking through town with a whole bunch of stuff on it.
Like, why do you have that?
Because blending into your environment can also help you survive in any situation. Pay attention to your surroundings. If you have a wristwatch, one very good, people like digital wristwatches. Avoid digital wristwatches. Get a regular face watch. If you don't know how to read them, learn. Because your face watch can be used as a compass. If you pay attention to where you're going and your surroundings, you'll know which way north, west, south, and east are anyways. But if you don't, you can use your wristwatch as a compass.
We should do a video on that sometime. Not
up and coming videos.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. Okay, well, thank you, and I appreciate you coming out here and helping me go on a hike. I haven't been on a hike for, I don't know, well, since before I broke my ankle, which was
2-3 months.
Well, it was a month and a half ago when I broke this, so it was whatever I did, you know, right before that. So I just appreciate getting out here and having a good time. The jojoba beans are growing everywhere out here. Makes me want to go around and gather them, and you know, but that's not today.
The desert's teeming with edibles.
It is teeming with all kinds of great stuff, you know, and there's just what I love about the Sonoran Desert. One of the things is that every time of the year, there's food everywhere, and there's useful things like the jojoba beans, of course, are useful for more things than just food. You know, we were just talking off camera, you know, how they're useful in certain like salves and medicine. If you had to put on some sunscreen or something for your chapped lips, you know, or you know, for cooking oil, it's like these jojoba beans, just the oil is so useful, you know, along with just eating them because you're hungry. As long as you don't overdo it and you can't poop anymore. But anyway.
Nature provides everything you need. Humans have been living for thousands of years all over the world in different environments. Walmart's a great place to go if you need something, but everything is out there if you know how to find it and know how to use it.
And it's free, and you don't have to spend money to buy it, which is great. Just come out here and enjoy it.
First settlers coming across the prairie out to this area, they came with very few things, and they lived comfortably out here.
All right, well, this has been fun. I hope you learned a little bit, and we're going to do some more of these and discuss, you know, maybe make some future videos on wilderness first aid, Sasquatch style. Thanks for coming out here, Joe.
Oh, no problem.
We'll do it again.